bring this forum to you. We invited all of the candidates for the race for Johnson City Board of Education, and we have present tonight, alphabetically, Thomas Hager Jr., Kathy Hall, Jonathan Kinnick, Sam Pettyjohn, Paula Treese, and Robert Williams. At this point, I will turn things over to League member Dana York, who will go over the guidelines and moderate the forum.
Thank you, Gwen. Good evening, candidates. We appreciate your willingness to participate in the forum for the candidates that are running for the positions of the Board of Education in Johnson City. I am Dana York, and I am a member of the East Tennessee League of Women Voters, and I will be your moderator tonight. Each candidate will be allowed a 1.5-minute opening statement and a 1-minute closing statement. Their order of participation was predetermined by drawing of numbers. After the first speaker, the order of the answers will rotate with each round of the questions. Each candidate's response to the question will be limited to 1.5 minutes. A league timekeeper will indicate when 30 seconds remains with a yellow square, and when the time is up, a red square. You will be required to stop at that time. Candidates were provided 2 questions in advance. They have not seen the remaining questions that were determined by representatives of the partnering organizations and edited to ensure they are non-biased, respectful, and relevant to the races for which participating candidates are running. No questions will be posed from the audience. Candidates, this is a forum where we want you to provide voters with your views and issues presented. There will be no cross-questioning or additional responses as in a debate. Public forums such as this work best if a high level of civility and decorum is observed. Audience members are asked to refrain from responding to any of the candidates or not to applaud until we are at the end of the forum, so we have as much time as we can to ask a lot of questions. So with that, we are going to start with our opening statements. And our first statement, and then we'll go in this order, is Mr. Kinnick.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Kinnick. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Johnson City Press for inviting us today. I came down to Milligan College in 1984 and I graduated with a BS degree in computer science and mathematics. I stayed here and raised my family here with my kids going through the Johnson City schools for K through 12. I was recently on the school board for 4 years. I had the desire to be on the board for a long time before that, but I lost my wife to breast cancer 21 years ago when my kids were 4 and 7, and my focus was on getting my kids through school, and I was very involved with helping them excel in their education. A little bit more about myself. I've owned my own business, Kinnick Consulting, for 29 years, and I've also owned Norris Bicycles for 8 years. I bicycle a lot, riding, racing, the whole works. I typically ride 150 to 200 miles a week. I used to tell my kids I do it to keep my sanity from having them. I'm heavily involved in my church. I've been an elder for a number of years, and I've led the budget team for over 20 years. I'm on the Johnson City Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and I've served as both chair and vice chair in the past. And on top of everything else, I got married this summer. My lovely wife, Megan, is here with me. Again, my name is Jonathan Kinnick. I'd appreciate your vote. You can go to votekinnick.org for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hager?
Thank you very much. My name is Tom Hager. Born and raised in Johnson City, graduated Science Hill High School, 1963. I graduated at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. Vietnam veteran, served 1 year in 1967, 68 with the 1st Cavalry Division in Vietnam. Been on the school board over 30 years. I believe that experience allows me the unique perspective of knowing not only where we have gone, but also where we need to go. In my work, I was in the criminal justice field as an investigator for Public Defender's Office for 30 years. Soon learned the need for students to have high quality education. I feel like I've developed a unique perspective of school board operations, and I look forward to continuing that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you for having me. I'm Robert Williams, born and raised in Johnson City. My wife and I have been married for 27 years. We have 2 children. Both have recently graduated from Science Hill. I'm a banker, been in banking for 28 years here in Johnson City. I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian, been active in our church. I've served as deacon, as treasurer, taught Sunday school and Wednesday night. I'm community focused. I've served on the Johnson City Development Authority for 12 years, 8 years as the board chair. It's an organization focused on the redevelopment of downtown. Founding board member of Eastern 8 Community Development Corporation. It's a nonprofit housing company that we started 20 years ago. We've built 200 or more homes for low-income families. I've served on the original board of Coalition for Kids, a wonderful after-school program, in the last 4 years on the school board. I understand the importance of education. I've graduated from Furman University, the Graduate School of Banking at LSU, and have my master's in business administration from ETSU. I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican with a big heart. And the reason I'm running is that I love Johnson City, I love the community in which I live, and I want to keep our school system the best in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Therese?
Hi, my name is Paula Treese. I have lived in Johnson City for 18 years. I've lived in 28 places before that. So for living somewhere for 18 years, this is home. This is where I've raised my children. All 3 of my children are graduates of Science Hill High School. They've got an incredible education that allowed them the opportunity to go to service academies. All 3 have chosen to serve their country in the Army, Navy, and Air Force, which we're very proud of. I started as an education advocate with the PTA. I have moved on I've served on the school board previously. I'm also a member of the Tennessee Public Education Coalition, which is a nonpartisan group that works on bettering education in the state of Tennessee. I've also been a mama bear fighting for education in the Tennessee and looking into things that affect our students statewide as well as locally. I've served on the Johnson City Schools 5-year plan committees several different times. I would appreciate your vote, and I'm working just to make sure our schools stay great.
Thank you. Ms. Hall?
Hi, my name is Kathy Hall. I've lived in Johnson City for 28 years. I currently live with my husband Duke. My son Hunter, who graduated from Science Hill, lives in Richmond. I am immensely proud of the Johnson City Schools and all we've accomplished. I've been on the board for 17 years, and I'm proud of the work we've done. I'm proud of our academic achievements. I'm proud of our state-of-the-art facilities. I'm proud that we're continuing to work on our facilities to make sure that they serve all of our students well. I'm proud of the planning we do. We just finished our 5-year plan. We had over 100 stakeholders participate in that plan, and they laid out a pretty tough path for us, but we are up to that. I'm proud of our approach to safety. Our HEROES program has won awards. It should be the model nationally, and we do some great work there, and we're always looking for ways to make sure that our students are as safe as they possibly can be. I am proud of how we empower our students to achieve and continue to look for ways to remove barriers for success. I've served on the board 17 years. I've been recognized at the local and state level for my service. I've served as the president of the Tennessee School Boards Association, and I think education is the cornerstone of our community. I would like to help more. I think I have more to give. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for holding this forum. My name is Kathy Hall, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Mr. Pettyjohn?
Hi, my name is Sam Pettyjohn. First and foremost, I'm a dad of a first grader. That's why I'm up here. I'll have 3 kids in the Johnson City school system for the next 15 years, and I'm very proud of that, and I think the school system we have is just excellent. I'm also a research scientist at ETSU. I work in the Center for Rural Health Research. I approach research a little bit differently. I'm not a fan of sitting in an office. I believe in putting my boots on the ground and walking the walk. My interest has primarily been working in the opioid epidemic. I'm an infectious diseases and addiction science researcher. That's taken me down a lot of paths, and a lot of them lead back to education. A lot of them lead back to early childhood education. A lot of them lead back to our foster care program in the state. And again, walking the walk, I couldn't help myself. We became foster parents because I felt like we should be doing everything we can in our community to do our best for our children. and that's just carried me throughout my career and has led me here to consider and to run for school board. I've also been involved in the Health and Safety 5-year Planning Commission, again, working in the areas of health and safety as a profession. It was an honor to serve there. And I've also been actively involved in what's called the Child Friendly Cities Initiative through Johnson City. Johnson City actually pays for some of my time to go out and talk to parents and children and school staff about how to make this city more reflective of the children and the people that live here. And it's just been an honor to do that as well. And all of that has kind of led me down this path, again, to run for school board. And my name is Sam Pettyjohn, and I'd love your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Our questions will be projected up here on the screen, and for the questions, we'll now start with Mr. Hager. The first question is, what particular skills or experiences qualify you to serve as a school board member?
I answered part of that in my introductory. Been on the school board over 30 years. Feel like that the experiences that I've had in that time, I've served as board chairman 13 of those years, and I want to create an environment that emphasizes efficiency and excellence, and just use the experience I've had from the past to continue.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Well, I too have served on the school board for the last 4 years, so I have a great working knowledge of how the school system works and how the school board works. Have a great working relationship with our other school board members and our superintendent. As a community leader, as a business leader, as former board chair of the JCDA, I have a great working relationship with our city commission, which is very important. And also, I have a great business background in finance and accounting, which is very important for our school system and our funding, which is kind of unique to some of the other candidates. It's something that I have a working knowledge about and can add value to the school board from serving from that perspective.
Thank you. Ms. Therese?
Well, like most of the rest of us up here, I've served on the school board here also. I've served on it 2 years. I took over the last 2 years of a position where someone had moved out of our area. I've also been the PTA president at each of my kids' schools as I was growing up, and the Johnson City Council of PTA's president. I've worked with PTA leaders across the state. I've also have a good working relationship with our local legislators, our state legislators, and our state senator. So I'm not afraid to call them up on issues that affect our children and affect education, and let them know, what's the best for us here in Northeast Tennessee. I've also been an education activist. I've looked into all kinds of different issues we've had, from Common Core to all of that, over the last 15 years that I've been a parent in Johnson City schools. I feel that makes me qualified to be a school board member again.
Thank you. Ms. Hall?
When I first ran for school board, I did it because I had a background in marketing and communications, and I thought those skills could be helpful on the school board. I started running 17 years ago, and it's been a wonderful experience for me. I too have been very involved in our community. I'm very involved with our library. I read to over almost 500 kids every week in our schools, so I'm in our schools as a volunteer. I too am very involved with our legislators and our community leaders, our city commission, to make sure that we are communicating our needs at all times. I think my experience on the school board makes me a great candidate. Thank you.
Mr. Pettyjohn?
I have a selfish interest in wanting these schools to be the best they possibly can be, because my children will be there for a very long time. And I'm also a third-generation educator. Both my grandmas were teachers. My mom was a teacher. My sister, my brother-in-law are teachers, were teachers. And I teach career technology education to high school students in Washington County through ETSU. I teach Intro to Human Anatomy and medical technologies. And it's just been an amazing experience for me. And I really just want to be more active in our schools since my daughter started. And I know I don't have the experience of being on the school board, but I'm looking to change that. And I really want to be here to make a change, and I want to do it for the long haul as my kids continue to move through the school system.
Mr. Kinnick?
So as I mentioned and others did in my intro, I served on the school board for 4 years also, and also alluded to being a single parent, helping my kids through school. But besides that parent perspective, I also believe my business skills will add some important perspective and experience. I develop software and do computer consulting for a living. Those analytical skills and technology experience have helped with technology decisions. I've often helped explain to both administrators and our board in layman's terms the pros and cons of different technology options and decisions. I have experience solving a diversity of problems through my computer business, my bicycle shop, and my church. I'm currently on the Johnson City Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and I've served as chair and vice chair in the past. I've attended most of the school board meetings since 2012, whether I was on the board or not, so I'll be able to hit the ground running. And I know I've positively impacted the community through changes made while I was on the board, like hiring our current superintendent, transitioning to 2 middle schools, and adding on to numerous grade schools. So I just believe I have the analytical skills and experience to make those same kind of major decisions in the future. So I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Our second question, we will start with Mr. Williams, is what one particular issue motivates you, motivates you to serve on the Board of Education? Mr. Williams.
Well, I feel like we have a lot of unfinished business. We have a lot of capital needs in our school system. We have facility needs. We need a new town acres. Our system is growing. We're going to need, we're projecting that we're going to need another elementary school probably in the next 4 years. We have one of the best swimming programs in the state, yet we have a very antiquated swimming pool for them to swim in, so we need an aquatic center. Our ROTC program needs more space. Our wrestling program needs more space. We need more ball fields. We need more turf fields. There's just a lot of needs that our system has, and with my background in banking and finance and accounting, I'm hoping that that expertise can help us with the funding of these needs.
Ms. Treese?
Educational excellence. I think Science Hill and our Johnson City schools have always set the bar very high as far as educational excellence. And I think we need to continue that and make sure that we offer the opportunities to every student in our district to go wherever they want to go in life, whether that be working right out of high school or going to vocational technical school or going to college. I think we need to work towards serving them to the best of our ability to make them reach their dreams as adults. And that starts with educational excellence.
Ms. Hall?
I am a fierce advocate for education, public education, and literacy. But I think the one issue that motivates me is making sure that we, in this evolving world, are preparing our students to be successful after they get out of our school system, whether that be going on to college, whether that be a career technical field, making sure that our students have the skills and that we open that up to all students and making sure that there are no barriers to education or success for our students.
Mr. Pettyjohn?
I'm concerned about several issues, but first and foremost, I'm concerned primarily about early childhood education, pre-K, and elementary education, because those are the bedrock on which all the rest of our schools kind of gain their success. And so we've had a whole group of children now that have had a lack of access to early childhood education and pre-K services due to COVID, and those children will be in our school system now for the next 12 years. And so we need to be making sure that we're doing our best to utilize the skills that we have and the programs that we have to make sure that there's no gap, especially for those children, and make sure we don't have a gap in the future, no matter what comes about.
Mr. Kinnick?
It's hard to narrow it down to one, but I would have to say funding, because that facilitates all the other ideas mentioned also. You can't pull some of those off without the proper funding. And Tennessee has just made a change that will, well, starting to help us out shortly, to TISA for the new funding model instead of the BEP. So that looks promising. We'll have to see for sure how that plays out. But then capital projects is another big issue. And hopefully the next time our county spends some money on capital projects, they'll share it equitably with us, because we do need a new town acres. We needed that. They're running out of room. And so putting fifth graders back, they still have enough room right now, but it won't last. And I know it was mentioned already, but it's been a big thing I've after. Also with the pool, we have the best swim team in the entire region and the worst pool in the entire region. And so that is something that needs to be addressed also.
Mr. Hager?
When I started on the school board, one of the main reasons I did was I saw the need for students to have the best education that they have. I think my time on the board, the Johnson City Schools has come a long way, and I consider this school system one of the top in the state, if not the top. A concern, I don't know if this would be an issue per se, but we have really fine teachers in the Johnson City system, and we need to continue to develop ways to keep them in the classroom. Teacher shortages you keep hearing about. We need to do everything possible we can to help the teachers. And then I have 2 grandchildren, and I listen to them about 3 times a week. And that is an issue. They bring up issues that become kind of close to my heart, so I'm trying to take care of their issues.
Thank you. Our third question is, board members must sometimes make decisions regarding complex issues that have vocal supporters on all sides. What processes would you use to stay informed about the issues, and with whom would you consult in making the decisions? We'll start with Ms. Treese.
Thank you. Well, the process you use is you have to listen to voices from all sides. You can't just use your own personal opinions on this. You have to value every person who's approaching you on the subject. And then you have to educate yourself in other ways too. You have to contact, depending on what it is, you might need to contact finance people or health people, but you need to look at opinions from all different directions in order to make an informed decision. Also, we have a great staff at our schools. If it's issues regarding safety or other things with the staff, we need to consult with them in order to make those decisions. But most importantly is to read all the emails, get all the phone calls, and listen to everyone and respond to them and actually thank them for sending their opinions in.
Ms. Hall?
Yes, it's been an interesting time, and school board members have been communicated with a lot over the last couple of years. It is very important that you listen to all sides and make sure that you're talking to people that have information that will help you make that decision. First of all, you need to make sure if there's an issue that it has been solved at the kind of lowest possible level. So if you get a call about someone that has a parent that has an issue with a teacher, you make sure that they've talked to that teacher. So you make sure that that chain of command has been followed. But listening to all people, talking with our excellent administrators and our excellent teachers to find out what their opinions are, and making sure that you understand the legislation that may affect the issue is so important. So keeping an open mind, reading all those emails. There is no shortage of ways to communicate anymore. So reading the emails, making sure you have your finger on the pulse of what the community is feeling is the most important way to make sure that you're addressing issues.
Mr. Pettyjohn?
I'm a firm believer in research with subject matter experts. And subject matter experts in schools are parents, teachers especially. They are the subject matter experts in education for the grades, different grades. There's our staff, there's our administration. Listening to them is one of the most important things that we can do. They are the experts in their fields, and using their input and then looking for best practices and best evidence available, that's how you solve problems. And then evaluating those solutions and seeing if those solutions are really working in our district, because every district is different. And you just have to kind of continue to do this and have constant quality improvement across our schools is the way that you're going to make improvements with everybody at the table.
Mr. Koenig?
Yes, I'm always open to input from anybody, and always pay attention to that, emails, phone calls, whatever. But, you know, I'm an expert in some things, but I'm not an expert in teaching a kindergartner. So I would go to the experts that are. And, you know, so we have excellent teachers, excellent staff, excellent administrators, And those people are professionals in their field, and that's the process that we normally use, is to get the opinions from the experts that know, and do our research that way.
Mr. Hager?
I feel that I'm a good listener. I would listen to all sides of any issue, rely on superintendent or central office staff to provide input, something that we, as board members, you have to always be aware of. Issues generally come with laws developed by our Tennessee legislature, so you need to be current on what the laws are at the state level, and then you take all of that into thought, and then you try to make the best decision you can make in the best interest of the students and our employees.
Mr. Williams?
You know, two traits that make an effective board member are to be a good communicator, and that includes being a good listener, as others have mentioned, but also it's someone who's prepared. And when you're faced with an issue, it's important to prepare yourself by researching the issue and talking to as many as you can, as many of the stakeholders, which can include parents, teachers, administrators, and really understand the issue at hand, and to be a good listener. And there's several times that we've been on the board and we may have gone in with one thought in mind, but you listen to the board, and collectively we make the best decision for the system, for our students, for our teachers, and our staff.
Thank you. Our next question is, in response to the recent controversies over school material, the Tennessee legislature passed the Age-Appropriate Materials Act of 2022 during its last session. There's been much debate and uncertainty over the implications of this act. What is your interpretation of the issues involved in the implementation of this act, its benefits, its drawbacks, and the effects it has on students, teachers, librarians, administrators, parents, and the community? We'll start with Ms. Hall.
I think you hit the 90-second mark just on the question. I think as long as there's been books, there have been controversies about books. I know our legislature is trying to do their best to make sure that what we have in our schools is age appropriate, and that's why it's called the Age Appropriate Act. We, of course, as a system, will work within the framework of the new law. I have great faith that our teachers and our librarians are professionals and have done a good job on a daily basis of deciding what is age appropriate for our students. If there's a parent that feels that there is something that is inappropriate in our schools, we have a system that they can challenge that. And there's a committee that will review it. It'll be brought to the board. So I think there's a process in place if there's any question, but I have great faith that we have in the past and will continue to make sure the materials in our school are age appropriate. And I hope that we don't have to put any undue pressure on our teachers to do any cataloging at this point.
Mr. Pettyjohn.
So that's a great answer. But I also feel, frankly, I think this is overreach by our state government, that I feel like the experts are in our schools. We have experts in administration. We have experts that are librarians. We have experts that are teachers. This is their job. This is their passion. Have you ever met an unpassionate librarian? I have not. I'm here to tell you that they are qualified to do this work. And the implications right now, it's having a chilling effect, especially I know for sure in the county, there are teachers that have packed up their libraries and said, I cannot do the work necessary to make sure to meet the criteria for this law, and I'm scared of the consequences if I cannot. And that's a chilling effect, is taking books out of classrooms. And I think anytime you're taking a book out of a classroom, that's the wrong move. I fail to see what could be so dangerous in a book picked by a teacher that means we should have no books in a classroom. And so I firmly believe that the teachers and the librarians and the administration should be the folks that are put in charge of these things. They are the subject matter experts in all these matters when it comes to books. And I'm happy to work within the laws, of course. I've read the media plan that was put out through the administration. I think it's excellent. I love that there's a process that parents can bring forward if there are issues with books on an individual level. But again, I feel as though this is just an overstep by our state government.
Mr. Kinnick.
The bottom line is, of the new law is that we have to make sure our books and related material are age appropriate. And that's what we've always done in the past, and that's what we'll continue to do. As was already mentioned, we'll trust our professionals to keep doing what they're doing. So now we have also listed all the books online so parents can easily see that information. We have a procedure for receiving feedback from students and parents regarding any particular books or material. And we have a committee in place to evaluate that and the material in general to continue to make sure it's age appropriate. It seems like it's a win-win all around as parents can see more easily what the material is. They have a simple method to give us feedback, and we continue to improve on our books and material for our children.
Mr. Hager.
First, let me say, I think librarians were unfairly criticized in Nashville. Librarians do a terrific job. I think the legislature needs to clarify really what the law is. Some people think that this applies to teachers. In Johnson City, from what I know, we have no books available that are banned, and the school board has a policy that lays out how new books are selected. We have a book committee, and then there's also a system in place. If someone wants to question the book, there's a form they fill out and the book is investigated, and as been mentioned earlier, there's a process on down the line to Nashville.
Mr. Williams.
I was having some quiet time a number of weeks ago, and I came across a story of Corrie ten Boom, who was traveling with her dad at a very young age. She might have been 5 or 6. And she had seen some things in Chicago that she should not have seen. And she asked her dad, "Dad, what is sex?" And he was taken aback by the question, as he probably should have. And he was quiet and thoughtful for a minute. And he said, "Connie, I'm going to need your help carrying my bag when we leave." And she said, "Dad, it's too heavy." And he said, "Honey, there are some things that are just too heavy a burden for you right now, including what you asked me." And I think the spirit of the law is that we want material that is age appropriate for our children. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment, and I feel like our administrators, our teachers, our librarians will do the best job in finding the most appropriate material for our children in our classrooms.
Ms. Treese.
I'm going to go back to when my son was in 3rd grade. He read at a 9th grade reading level, and the librarian at the library at Indian Trail said he can read at that level, but most of the stuff that's written at that level is above his comprehension level. Most of the books that we read as adults are actually written on a 4th and 5th grade level. But we also need to look at content of them. There are certain things I personally won't read, and I certainly don't want children to read them when they're children. I don't mind if they're in the public library, but I think a few things should not be in the public school library. There's so many books out there that are age appropriate and content appropriate, and we just need to look at that. And I think that's what this law is talking about. And our his system has done a good job of keeping within those things. And by all means, my kids I read all the books they did when they were in high school. I read To Kill a Mockingbird and Fahrenheit 451 and all of those as they read them. Those are appropriate for high school kids. And I think we need to make sure, but they're not appropriate for elementary school kids. So I think we just need to make sure they're content appropriate as well as age appropriate.
Thank you. Our next question is, in the development of the school district budget, what goals and objectives would guide your decision-making? Mr. Pettyjohn.
So I we look at the evidence, and we know where we invest with our money has the potential for the greatest impact on our students. And that's kind of my guiding light for all these things. And so we know that if we invest primarily in people, if we invest in teachers, if we invest in students, that has the greatest impact collectively across our school systems on outcomes when it comes to test scores and college readiness and job readiness. So I'd be very much thinking from a people-first perspective. Additionally, again, early childhood education, we know if we put money in elementary schools and early childhood programs, that money is visited back on the community up to tenfold, and that's what the research tells us. So I'd be looking for where do we get the most money or the most possible improvement in investment for our dollars.
Mr. Kenny?
Having been through that process numerous times, it's not like we're reinventing the wheel each time. It's a rolling process from the previous year. And so it's always, we're always looking to do everything we can for our teachers, our staff. That's over 80% of the budget. And that's why we have the best teachers around, because we reward them for being that way. So that's the main goal every time, is to see what we can do, not just for raises, but there's other things that go in that also. Extracurricular activities, the coaches for those. There's a lot that goes into it. So we take a look at all of that to balance that out. And just a quick comment on the extracurricular. If you don't have that, for some kids, they have no desire to come for school, because people sometimes want those pushed to the side and not given the priority when it comes to budget. But we have to keep those in mind also, because that's the motivation the older they get to keep coming to school, so they can play in football or basketball or whatever, or do cheerleading, swimming, and all that stuff. So it's a complicated process, but at the same time, it's pretty clear what we're trying to do is get the best teachers, get the best staff, do everything we can so that we can have the best students going out.
Mr. Hager?
One of the first things you do is you make sure you can balance the budget. And as been stated, about 85% of our budget goes to personnel. We try every year to make sure all of our employees get some sort of pay increase. And then from there, you fill in the blanks on all the other issues. Like 15% of our budget is just like at your home. We have to pay light bills, water bills, sewer bills. So we're basically spending the majority of our budget on the personnel in the school buildings, and I think that's probably the biggest goal that we have.
Mr. Williams?
I agree with Mr. Hager. Our focus has been twofold: what is best for our students and what is best for our teachers. And we really have focused on having the best and highest paid teachers in our area and try to be the top 5 or top 10 in the state. If you have the best teachers, they are going to do the best job in teaching your students. It's not the facilities that you have, although we have wonderful facilities, some of the best in the state, but it starts with the teachers. And if you give them all the resources they need, then that's the great first step.
Ms. Treese?
I agree. It's with the teachers. And Johnson City has strived for years and years and years. I can't even tell you how long. Kathy probably can tell you. To have our teacher pay in the top 10% in the state, or the top 10 in the state. And that has brought a lot of exceptional teachers into our school district. Also, during the budgeting process, the school board physically goes to each school and finds out what the needs at that particular school are. Because the needs at Town Acres are going to be different from the needs at Mountain View, that are going to be different from Indian Trail. Even Liberty Bell and Indian Trail have different needs and are all different from Science Hill. So we go and talk to the administrators at each of those schools to find out what's the most important things they need in the upcoming budget year. And then they give us wish lists, and we try to hit their wish lists. We can't always do it, but we do it based on what's best for each individual school, not just the school district as a whole. We look at that too, but we also look individually at each school.
Ms. Hall?
School finance is really complicated, and we're about to change completely the funding method that we have, but we get money from a lot of different places. But we've all talked about teachers, and that truly has been a strategy of our board for many, many years, for longer than I've been there, is to be in the top 10 systems in the state for teacher pay. I'd rather have a great teacher in a room without any bells and whistles, just a whiteboard, than all the bells and whistles and a mediocre teacher. And we really think that teacher pay is part of our strategy to make sure we are getting the best teachers that we can. After that, there's a lot of other things, and no, it's no secret that technology is part of our curriculum now, and we have to look at that. But we have, as a system, really made sure that we know why we need something before we buy it. There were some systems that went out, said, we need an iPad for every student. We need to know why we need that iPad, and is it an iPad or is it a laptop? And so we've done a good job of making sure what we get is what our students and our teachers need. But teachers and our entire staff come to the top when we look at our budget.
Thank you. Our next question. An individual school board member has no authority, only the majority board as a whole can make decisions for the district. What skills or traits will allow you to contribute to an effective operation of the board as a whole? We'll start with Mr. Kinnick.
I'm a team player, first of all, but also part of what goes into that is, that I look at data. I'm a computer person. I'm a numbers person. A lot of our things, like the decision to switch to the two middle schools, and whether it should be 5 through 8 or 6 through 8 at the middle schools, there was a whole lot of number stuff that went in with that. I mean, it's not only thing, but that is what you use, and then have meaningful conversations with other board members, with staff, with administration. And sometimes there's some convincing that has to be done. Sometimes there's explaining that has to be done. And I am good at communication and can get that out there and explain why I think something needs to be done a certain way, and have been able to change some minds and convince people of things. So I think I have good leadership skills along those lines.
Mr. Hager.
Again, I go back to, I feel like I'm a good listener, and once I listen to all sides of issues, when you really look at board decisions, most board decisions in my time, they're pretty cut and dry. Occasionally you will have something where you have to look at things a little differently. And I think what you do is you look at first at what's best for the student, what's best for the teachers, and you work as a board to come to a consensus agreement that this idea will be best for the entire school system. And I think just having a good working relationship with other board members is a big attribute.
Mr. Williams.
The sum of the traits that make an effective board member and some of the traits that I possess, again, it's important to be a good communicator, which means being a good listener also, listen to all the sides of the issue. Someone who is well prepared. You need to research the issue, talk to the stakeholders. You do need to be a good teammate. We don't always agree on the issue, but we talk it out, and once we make the decision, we unify behind that decision. And then it's important to be a visionary or strategic. Sometimes board members get too far down in the weeds, and that's not really our job. We're supposed to guide. We're supposed to set policy. We're supposed to work with our superintendent or director of schools and set policy and let he or she guide the system for us.
Okay. Ms. Therese.
Again, I'm going to say communication skills. Also, I like to look into things at the state level, like legislative issues. So I will read laws. I'm not a lawyer, but I will read those laws and find out how they affect kids. I'll read all the standards and look through what affects and how it is. And I'm not afraid of making phone calls to whomever to get the information that we need to make those decisions. We have to work as a group. We can't work. I've seen school boards that don't work together and don't communicate well, and I've always felt Johnson City Schools School Board has always communicated well and thoroughly researched, and each person who's on the board brings their own set of skills in, and it's important to have, you know, each different set. My set's just looking into a lot of the stuff that affects testing, all of that type of stuff.
That's all.
It's always interesting being on a board with different people, but it's good to have different opinions. If we all agreed, there would be no reason to have a board of 7 people. You need the different opinions, but our board has done a great job of being respectful of one another, of listening to one another, of making decisions, but also of following the rules. And the Sunshine Law is something our board takes very seriously. So we're not talking amongst ourselves outside of that public meeting. I talk to our administrators all the time. I educate myself and make sure I'm prepared all the time. But the business of the school board happens at our school board meetings, and that is so important. Also, to make sure that you're prepared and know the issues when you come into that school board meeting, and rely on the people on our staff that are experts in areas to educate us, but then bring that, have a great debate at a meeting, and vote the way that you feel you should, and then support the board's decision, whatever it may be.
Mr. Pettyjohn.
I would be a first-term member on this board, and I look at the people here that have done this work, and it's a group of accomplished, passionate professionals, and I'd just be honored to be included in it. I also understand that there's a need for listening, there's a need for consensus building, and finding common ground on our issues and how they relate to our students and our staff and our teachers. And I think that's really where I can bring something to this. I'm happy to participate in that. I work in public health, and that is, people don't like public health people right now. And I work in rural communities. I go to the ruralest of rural communities, and I go and I ask questions to community members. I say, what can we do to help you? How do we make your place, the place you live, healthier? How do we make this the place you want your children to live the rest of their lives? And that has taught me the need for strong consensus building and listening and dialogue. And those are all things that I think that we all can bring to this board, and I'm happy to participate in and do.
Thank you. Our next question. Please share 2 or 3 major goals you want our school district to accomplish during your term in office, and describe the steps you would take to see that those goals are achieved. And we'll start with Mr. Hager.
The first goal, as far as I'm concerned, would be retention of teachers. And I would hope that as a school system, we make the job of a teacher one, they wouldn't want to leave, and if there are issues that we can help them with to keep them in the classroom, we would want to do that. I have concerns about the state new funding formula. On the new funding formula, the state is using the base of, I believe, $6,800, but I assume that the legislature will be passing the voucher bill, and we're going to be giving, the state will be giving vouchers of $7,000 to $7,500. That concerns me as far as our funding goes.
Mr. Williams.
Many school systems have focused on college graduation rates for their students that are going to college, students that graduate from college, and that's a wonderful initiative. In fact, there was an article in the Johnson City Press about that again today, but not every student needs to go to college. We need more vocational opportunities for our students. There are many occupations, whether it's a plumber, electrician, a carpenter, that are great jobs that pay well, that start at $65,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and these students would hardly have any student debt, if at all. And so I would really like to see the Johnson City school system partner with stakeholders in our community, whether it's business owners or other school systems to really focus on more technical and vocational educational opportunities for our students. And then secondly, we've talked about the need for a new Town Acres. Collectively, we've talked about that for years. We have a lot of other capital needs, and that's one reason that I'm wanting to stay on the board, is to see some of these initiatives through.
Ms. Treese?
I'll start with the new Town Acres. That's been talked about for years and years and years. Also, we need to always be considering the fact that there is just a mass influx of people into our area. We were the number 3 area recently in the nation for people to move to. So we need to be thinking now about what our needs for the schools are 5 to 10 years from now, because who knows how many more schools we might need to build in the meantime so that our schools aren't overpopulated. Also, to a lot of people, this might seem minor, but changing the start times of high school. It's become a trend across the country to, instead of having our high schoolers be waking up at the crack of dawn and getting to school by 7 or 7:15, to move them to an 8:30 to 9 a.m. start. It's been proven that teenagers need that extra sleep, and they can get that in the morning. Usually younger children want to, are able to wake up earlier and be more effective in a classroom. So just swapping our elementary schools and our high school time start would be amazing.
Ms. Aul?
It's a good list that we're forming. I think we've got some good work. I think supporting our staff and making sure that our teachers have what they need and that we're continuing to attract great teachers to our system is very important. I think a new Town Acres is very important because we are at capacity in our elementary schools, and building a new Town Acres is the first step in building that capacity. Our City Commission is doing a growth study now, which will help us decide what other elementary schools need to be built. Our 2 middle school model has built some capacity there, but we really need to do something at the elementary schools. I've always said if I had a magic wand, I'd change the high school start time. I don't have a magic wand, and it takes a full board to make that decision, but I would love to see that done. And really expanding our career technical opportunities for our students is so important, because having some skills that you can take into the workplace and a certificate of some sort is so important. So I would love to see our career technical opportunities expand.
Mr. Pettyjohn?
This is going to sound like everybody else, and I promise that that's not where I was going with this, but I want to install the best evidence-based practices we can as a board for our school system, and that includes a later start time for the high school. That includes really looking at teacher retention through the frame of wellness and mental health, and making sure that we're doing our best to make our teachers as effective as possible. And then finally, expansion and modernization of the career technology education program. I completely agree with that. I've gone to school for way too long, and I'm here to tell you that there are lots and lots of opportunities for folks that don't involve college, and keeping folks here in our region by getting them certificates in these advanced career options, including welding, including just learning to fly airplanes. There's programs where folks can learn general aviation in a career technology education program. Finding ways to put these innovative industries here locally to expand and grow our economy benefits our students, it benefits our school system through the tax base, and it benefits our community as a whole.
Mr. Koenig?
Again, I'm going last. It's all been said, but I'm going to say it. Just continue to increase our pay for teachers, to retain them and hire the best. I've been pushing for us to swap the start time since 4 years ago. I've seen that as a huge way to gain more on test scores and everything. I looked at a lot of the research that was out there, and that's what it showed, especially at the high school level. It increases the test scores when they're not getting up at the crack of dawn, because they're going to stay up late no matter what. More CTE also, and then Town Acres. I've been an advocate for that the whole time I was on the board, still pushing for that. I've built relationships and continue to do that to help facilitate that, because we have to have the city help with that. So we have to figure out the bonding and all those complicated things that have to happen just to get the funding. We did the geotechnical evaluation while I was on the school board at Town Acres, so we do know that we can build another one on the same site. So we don't have to find another site. We've got that part knocked out and put a 2-story building there. So that's probably my biggest goal out of all those, is to get that moving. It's a slow process, it takes time, but I would do everything I can to get that moving while I'm on the board.
Well, our last question you've all talked about, so I want you to go into more depth on this one. How can Johnson City stay competitive in hiring and retaining highly effective teachers? And we will start with Mr. Williams.
Well, like you said, we've talked about it, and that really has been our focus, our strategy, long before I was on the board. Maybe when Tom started, or both my parents happened to serve on the board. But again, having the best teacher is better than having a mediocre teacher with all the resources. And I just can't stress it enough. We have the absolute best teachers, best support staff, best administrators in the state, which makes our school system the best in the state. And I truly believe that. And so I don't know what else to say, but they
But
do a
how
fantastic
How
job.
will you keep them?
Well, it starts with compensation. I mean, if you can attract the best teacher, but another thing that one of our school board members has done for a long time is grow your own. We really need to focus on growing our own teachers, and let our community realize that, and our students realize, it's a noble profession. And it's been very difficult the last 2 years for our teachers and nurses, but we really need to support the teachers and grow our own teachers within our community.
Thank you. Ms. Treese, how?
That's a great question. Well, I agree with Robert. First, we need to make sure we keep our compensation to our teachers high. We need to make sure we have things for them through the stress of their job that their job has turned into now, ways for them to de-stress in our community. But we also need to grow our own teachers. And I think one of our school board members now has been pushing that initiative to encourage kids, because a lot of kids don't really see the benefit of going into education at this point. We need to teach them, you look at how the teachers have touched your lives and how you can touch others' lives. We need to go in and encourage that when they're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Once they get to high school, we might be beyond encouraging that. And we need to encourage we have a great college right here in our hometown, getting them here into our local college and and then encouraging them to come back and apply into our Johnson City schools and getting that pipeline going so we have people to replace the current teachers that we have as they get to retirement age.
Ms. Hall, how will you do this?
Well, I've served at the state level on the Tennessee School Boards Association, and we all go to conferences, and hearing the stories from some of our colleagues about the difficulties they have finding teachers is really heartbreaking. We are lucky here. Well, I guess it's not luck. We've done a lot to make sure that we have things in place to attract great teachers, and our strategies have worked. We continue to have great teachers applying. We have not had a shortage at this point. But we are putting things in place like Grow Your Own. We have 3 classes at Science Hill, Education as a Profession, three different levels of that, encouraging students to consider education as a profession and going on to do that. I think also just making sure that we are holding teachers up and celebrating them as a great profession, making students think about becoming teachers, that it is a profession where they can be fulfilled, that they can make money, is something we need to do. But in general, I think keeping our strategy of making sure we're attracting the best teachers and compensating them well is important.
Mr. Pettijohn, how will you do this?
I think first and foremost, it's about respect for teachers as professionals. I think it's about giving them the tools they need to be the best possible educators for the best possible educational outcomes. And I think that comes from, again, yes, compensation. I think that comes from addressing teachers' mental health and wellness and finding ways to find innovative ways to get them the care they need. I also think that it's a matter of, yes, a pipeline where we talk about mentorship. Randomly today, I picked my daughter up from Educare at Southside, and the woman I told her where I was going. I'm going to that school board thing after this, and she said, the reason I became a teacher is because of Michelle Treese. And so that spoke to me, and I said, my goodness, thank you for sharing that to me. That's inspiring as I go out tonight. So the teachers can have an impact on the next generation of teachers? Absolutely. And so we really need to be fostering that relationship. We have a great relationship with ETSU when it comes to the education department. It's second to none. Clemmer College is amazing. We need to be finding ways to integrate our local folks into a local program so they can stay local. And again, that does a lot of things besides just improve the education of our students. It helps grow our economy. All of a sudden, we have a group of highly professional teachers trained at one of the best institutions in the state that are benefiting living here in this community and also benefiting our students, and that just kind of continues to grow and grow.
Mr. Koenig.
Again, all good things. Try not to be real repetitive. Of course, the compensation, that's a huge thing, especially for the initial hiring. But I will touch on one thing that relates to the retaining. So when my son was in kindergarten and first grade, the teachers would have trouble with the 2 or 3 computers they had at that time, and he would sometimes fix them as a kindergartner or first grader, or he'd say, when he came home, Dad, hey, they got this problem. I'd go in and fix it. We don't have that issue now. Besides the professional staff we have, our teacher tech program is amazing, and I think that's a big thing that helps with retaining, because kids can easily get ahead of teachers in some of this technology stuff, but with the program that we have in place, the teachers get training, they train other teachers, they know how to use the tools on tablets and computers and phones and whatever needs to be, because you cannot fully connect with the kid in this day and age if you don't do technology. That's just where it's at. And so giving our teachers not just the equipment, but the training to use that properly, and that was alluded to before. We don't do things just willy-nilly. We have a purpose behind it. And so that is a huge thing that makes the teachers feel comfortable. It gives them what they need to do their job, and they know they can connect to the students better with that kind of thing. So I think that's significant.
Mr. Hager, how will you do this?
Start off with, I think we need to continue to always look at teacher pay and teacher benefits. We need to provide teachers with a good work environment, provide the resources and they need in their classrooms. And in my time on the school board, we used to have bargaining, and now we have collaborating. And I feel that in my time on the board and those teams that represent the board and the teachers, we've had a good working relationship. And if they bring stuff to those meetings that the board needs to look at or needs to do something about, I feel like the board has listened to them and tried our best to do what they suggested.
Thank you. We'll now have our closing statements, and we'll start with Mr. Pettyjohn.
Thank you. Folks, I want to say just being up here with this group of professionals has really been an absolute honor for me. And running for school board has not been easy for me especially. I want to tell you, I don't think I'm the only person up here that had to get a babysitter to come here to do this tonight. I had a daughter at dance tonight. I had a son at soccer tonight. And I had a 2-year-old that needed a babysitter, and they all need dinner. I have to leave after this for baths. So I'm telling you that I'm running because this is a passion of mine, because I feel like I want to contribute to our schools and to our community and be part of the greater good to really lift this place up and lift our schools up, lift our teachers up. That's all I can say is that I'm here because I absolutely want to be, and I absolutely would love your vote, and follow me on Facebook. Thank you.
Ms. Hall.
Oh, going backwards.
We're
Okay.
going backwards.
I have learned a lot through my service on the school board, and I believe my experience is and has been valuable to our system. I spent a lot of time and energy doing all I can to make our system great. I'm part of a really impressive team. But I also serve our students other ways. I have spent countless hours at PTA meetings, mentoring students, collecting soup labels and box tops, volunteering in school libraries, giving tours at Science Hill, and I currently read to almost 500 students every week. This week is Sea Creatures, just in case you wanted to know. I've served on the board and as president of the Tennessee School Boards Association. I have served on more committees and task forces than I can count. I'm proud of our system. I work well in this community. We've achieved so much, and I want to be part of our continued success. My name is Kathy Hall, and I would appreciate your vote.
Ms. Treese.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and the Johnson City Press for putting this on. Education is our future. It affects our community. We have to have the best education that we have. My children got an incredible education going through Johnson City Schools, and I feel it's my turn to pay that back to our community and help continue to keep our schools the top-notch schools that they are, and also to encourage our families to make sure their kids get the best education they can get at our schools. I want to just give back to the community that has helped my kids so much. I would appreciate your vote. My name is Paula Treese, and thank you.
Mr. Williams?
First of all, thank you for hosting us tonight. I think it's been a very productive forum for everyone. I have a long history of community service, and it's because I love Johnson City. I love my community, and this has been the highest honor for me to serve on the school board, and I would love the opportunity to serve another 4 years. We have a wonderful school system, and I think it's the best in the state. And it's important for our community to have one because, and we haven't talked about this, but your school system can be an economic driver for your city. It can attract people to move here. It can attract good-paying jobs and new businesses. I'm Robert Williams. I'm running for re-election, and I would appreciate your vote and support.
Mr. Hager?
My reason for running for the school board 30-some years ago is no different than it is today. I have a passion for the Johnson City school system. I grew up in the Johnson City school system. It meant a lot to me then, it means the same today. I cannot tell you how far this school system has come in my time on the school board. We have passed Kingsport, we passed Bristol, we passed Oak Ridge to become one of the best in the state. My passion is for that to continue and to make this system even greater. Again, Tom Hager, would appreciate your vote and support. Early voting and on November the 8th. Thank you.
Mr. Koenig?
Thank you again for hosting this forum for us. I thoroughly enjoyed my time on the school board, and I felt I was very effective and fruitful in that, and I contributed a lot. I think that experience does mean a lot, and I'd like to use that again. As I mentioned, my background with technology and analyzing, I think that's a huge benefit to the school board also. So, yeah, I would appreciate your vote. I'm conservative. Go to votekinnick.org if you want more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of the Northeast Tennessee League of Women Voters and the Johnson City Press. I want to thank you candidates for being willing to run. It's a hard job, and it's commendable that you would choose to volunteer your time and your talents for your town, for your county, for your state, and your country, because these children could go anywhere in the world from this place. We want to thank you for your participation in this forum tonight and for our audience in being here. Our next forum will start at 7 o'clock. Please help me thank all of our candidates for tonight. So the forum for the City Commission will start at 7.